Thank you, Senator Ryan. Senator Carr.
Yes, Madam Deputy President, I move to take note of the answer to questions that I asked of Senator Brandis concerning the Privileges Committee report into the search warrants exercised against the opposition during the election campaign. The exercise of the search warrants, which were the subject of the Privileges Committee report, search warrants in the Senate, which were tabled yesterday, found that the AFP raids into the office of former Senator Conroy and a staff member's home during the last year's election campaign were an improper interference in the work of the parliament. The report also found that Senator Conroy had rightly claimed that documents seized or photographs during the raids were in fact privileged. And the committee accepts that the documents and photographs may have been responsible for 2 NBN employees being sacked. Now, this is a circumstance where during an election campaign and following the advice of the NBN to the minister responsible, who claims, of course, that he never spoke to the Prime Minister about this matter, of course, in the circumstance where the Prime Minister, we'll all recall, on the night of the election, said how outraged he was that the Labor Party had launched a campaign and that he was going to refer the matter to the police. Do you recall that on election night? The Prime Minister seeking to involve the police in the political events of that election campaign. We find the circumstances during that election campaign where there were in fact raids undertaken against the Labor Party because of their exposure of the activities of this government in regard to the operations of the NBN. We have a circumstance where the NBN itself acknowledged that at least one of two people that were subsequently removed from the NBN were not subject of inquiry until that raid had actually occurred. That person confirmed that the committee that had not previously been under investigation. Now, of course, the reason the committee found that the AFP's actions in those regards that took place were not a contempt of the parliament, because there's an extremely high bar set. Have to demonstrate in these circumstances that there was a person who was accused of contempt had, of course, an attempt, was their intention to actually undertake that contempt. But that doesn't diminish the gravity of these issues. It doesn't for a moment diminish just how serious this question is. And we've heard today from the Attorney-General, the first lawyer officer of the land, that this government does intend to do nothing about this question. Done nothing whatsoever about the question. It doesn't let the NBN off the hook in this regard in any way. And it is extraordinary on the ABC this morning when we woke up. We heard, of course, the broadcast being made that the NBN intended to prosecute their case against the whistleblowers, despite the findings of the Privileges Committee report. And what does the government have to say on this matter? Nothing. It sees it as not as its responsibility to protect the privileges of this parliament. It sees it, of course, has nothing to do with them whatsoever. What we do know is, of course, that the Prime Minister has undertaken his concerns about the opposition's attitude when his actions were taken as Minister for Communication, where, of course, have exposed the failure of this government. But that doesn't excuse the NBN Co's behaviour. In particular, the chairman of the NBO, Dr Ziggy Zurkowski. Now, as a man I've worked with closely and I have a high regard for, the very fact that he has such a distinguished public service career, not only as the chair of the NBN, but as Chancellor of the RMIT, as head of ANSTO, and a whole series of other responsibilities, demonstrates to me that he actually does know better. And what he did during the election campaign in publishing an article actually arguing in defence of these raids, which, of course, subsequently the Secretary of the PM&C department said was a clear and unequivocal breach. A clear and unequivocal breach of the caretaker conventions of this country. Of course, a breach which was also undertaken by the Department of Communications, who had a release of that article given to it by Dr Zurkowski and did nothing about that either. And we've got the circumstance here where the staff members of Senator, as he was then, Senator Conroy, were of course read their rights and told that they were suspects in the normal course of their work as staff members of a Member of Parliament. It's quite an extraordinary proposition that we have a circumstance where this government seeks to, by their negligence,
Thank you, Senator
allow this
Carr.
behaviour to go
Your
on.
time has expired. Senator Brandis.
Thank you, Madam Deputy President. That is one of the most foolish and irresponsible speeches I have ever heard in all of the years I have sat in this chamber. Because what Senator Carr, a former Minister of the Crown, who ought to know better, has done is to have attacked the integrity of the Australian Federal Police. I'll come to the others whose integrity he has attacked in a moment. But first and foremost, Senator Kim Carr has attacked the integrity of the Australian Federal Police. As the Minister with responsibility for the Australian Federal Police, may I say to you, Madam Deputy President, and to anyone who may be listening to this broadcast, that there is absolutely no question whatsoever about the integrity of the Australian Federal Police. And for Senator Carr to attack their integrity is despicable. Despicable.
Senator Brandis, resume your seat. Senator Carr.
I claim to be misrepresented. The allegation I make is against this government, not the Federal Police, and the Attorney General knows it.
Thank you, Senator Carr. That's a debating point. Senator Brandis, please continue.
Senator Carr, you protest too much, but in fact the allegation you make is against the Australian Federal Police, because what you are alleging— don't scurry out of the chamber like a coward. What you are alleging, Senator Carr, is that the Australian Federal Police improperly executed a search warrant. Now, when Madam Acting Deputy President, the Australian Federal Police decide to execute a search warrant, they only do so on the basis that they are satisfied that there are reasonable grounds to do so, on the basis usually of a complaint made to them. To suggest that the AFP have done something improper or inappropriate, as Senator Carr does, is to say that they made a decision on the basis of a misapplication of the grounds or the test for the issuance of a search warrant. And to say that is disgraceful. Now, Senator Carr also attacked NBN Co. As he also knows, NBN Co. is an independent statutory corporation. These events occurred, incidentally, during the caretaker period of an election campaign. There is no capacity whatsoever, in particular during an election campaign, for a minister to interfere in a decision by the appropriate executives of NBN Co. to make a complaint to the police that a crime may have been committed. So the attack on the integrity of NBN Co. is equally specious. Madam Deputy President, Senator Carr also said, not in the contribution we've just heard, but in the question he asked of me, implied that the Prime Minister may have had some role in these events, to which I can tell you, Madam Deputy President, and this has already been put on the public record by the Minister for Communications, Senator Fifield, the portfolio minister responsible for NBN Co. I can tell you that categorically that is not the truth. That is not the truth. And any suggestion or innuendo that it is the case is a lie. Lastly, Madam Deputy President, Senator Carr referred to the caretaker conventions. Might I remind you, Madam Deputy President, that when Senator Carr was last a minister in a government, the government of which he was a member, the second Rudd government, had such scant respect for the caretaker conventions, the then Attorney-General, who was also, as I recall, the Special Minister of State and the Minister for Public Service Integrity, of all things, said that the caretaker conventions were, quote, a matter of political practice, unquote. That was the regard that the then Attorney-General and the government of which Senator Carr was a member had for the caretaker conventions, that they regarded them as merely a matter of political practice. What Senator Carr has said, as I said a moment ago, Madam Deputy President, is a despicable smear on the Australian Federal Police and on other innocent Australians.
Thank you, Senator Brandis. Senator O'Neill.
You never have the courage to wear.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. And I have to make, at the outset, my absolute contempt for the contribution we just had from the leading law officer of the land, the Attorney-General. There is absolutely no doubt